Hey guys, welcome back to Discover Cars. As you see by the title, today we are looking at the 2024 Mini Cooper Countryman. I made a short a little while ago saying that I was able to test drive one of these and it was in their electric blue basically color. And I want to say my thoughts about it and the concerns I have with the Mini Cooper Countryman and who it's for and what I felt and all those things. So let's get right into it. So the official color of the car I test drove right here is Island Blue Metallic. And it does really look nice on the outside. I really see that blue cars are coming into favor now that electric cars are becoming more popular, and they love to make their cars a blue color. And so let's get to who this Mini Cooper Countryman is for. Alright, so the Countryman itself comes in a bunch of different options and a couple of different trims. And so you have a 3-cylinder one, a 4-cylinder one, and of course the John Cooper Works, which is the decked out, sporty one. And so the one I test drove was the S model. So it was the 4-cylinder turbocharged inline 4. And it's a 2-liter engine that makes a maximum of about 189 horsepower at about 5,000 RPM. So for the size of this vehicle, it's very small. It had a decent amount of zip. Now, I was a little disappointed. It did feel quite cumbersome. With a 3,413 pound curb weight, it is one of the heaviest Mini Coopers. So, with it being heavy and still having inline 4 with a wide baseline body line, it really felt sluggish, especially around corners and stuff like that. Now, the one I test drove was not supposed to be this big performance model that was able to, rip around corners and be like a race car. But if you're going with this small form factor that they hilariously call an SUV, you want some zip to it. Like, you want a really fun driving car if you're going to give up that much practicality. So I have never driven a Mini Cooper before. I never even been in one previous to this experience. And I want to give a big shout out to Wesley Chapel, this Mini dealership, for being very courteous and very kind to letting me take this out on a test drive for an extended time. So let's go over some highlights. The big center screen that's a circle instead of your typical like square rectangle huge screen in the middle of the car was quite unique, and the controls inside were quite intuitive. Now, I'm coming from a 2012 Toyota Corolla, which I've made a video on. Please go check that out. And having all of these technology upgrades can be a little overwhelming, especially coming 12 years into the future. But it did allow me to see that cars have come a long way. So unfortunately, me not being a big name or a big YouTuber, I wasn't able to have the car for an extended period of time, like being able to take it home and see how practical it is. But with my short time with it, you could really see that Mini was trying to just stretch as much space as they can out of their small form factor cars. And while they did an admirable job in trying, they really did sacrifice a lot of practicality that you really want from an SUV. When you buy a Toyota RAV4 or a Honda CR-V, or even get bigger like a Telluride or a Palisade, you get it because you need a big people mover, which I can understand that Mini isn't trying to market towards. But the problem is that when you call a car an SUV, and when you boldly say the biggest Mini we've ever had and the biggest Mini we ever made, it puts an expectation in people's head that these kind of cars are going to be a lot more practical. And while I did go into it knowing that it was going to be a small car, the trunk space, when I lifted open that trunk and looked into the car, it was almost laughable of how little space, cargo space, and trunk space that you had back there. It was like a hatchback. It was like getting a Corolla hatchback or something like that for the size and the shape and the dimensions that you had. Now, it did have some really cool touches. You know, in the back rear lights, it had the British flag as when the lights would beep around and blink and stuff. And it had a lot of quirks and features that really do set it apart. And if you're a BMW lover, you know, Mini and BMW being part of the same company is going to make it more attractive, and they offer some cool roadside assistance and some nice luxury bells and whistles with the Mini Countryman. Now, as we get closer to the end of this video, I do want to touch on who is this Mini Countryman for? I know there is a large population of Mini enthusiasts and people who swear by these cars. And I can get that. I can understand that because Mini does make some good, really sporty feeling, smaller cars that are great to go around town or do a nice little country drive because of how peppy it is. But as I mentioned earlier in this review, this Countryman being as heavy and the biggest Mini ever made does suffer from not being very agile and not being very powerful. Now, I didn't even try the baseline model with the 3-cylinder engine, which I could imagine how much more sluggish that would be. So, it's not really for the main Mini Cooper audience because it is not, you know, this nice agile driving experience. Now, don't get me wrong, it was fine. It was decent. It had some pep, especially when you put it into sport mode. You really saw all the power kind of get unleashed when you get out of eco mode, like most newer cars. But the fact is that it's not that much more practical. So people who are in the market for a RAV4 or even a Venza or, you know, Honda or any other automaker's equivalent, it's not going to scratch that itch for those people. It's not going to be practical enough to fit all those soccer bags, all your kids, and everything in this car. So it really leaves me scratching my head as an outsider looking in to this Mini segment on who is this car really made for. So let's recap. So my closing thoughts on the Mini Countryman S, the 2024, is it is a nice car. I did enjoy driving it. I did enjoy having it out for about an hour. And it is a car that is worth making. Like, it's not something that I think is a flop or that, you know, Mini is crazy for coming out with this kind of car, because SUVs, especially in America, are the big thing. They are what everyone wants and what everyone needs, with cars getting bigger and bigger and bigger because we need to fit more and more stuff in them. Knowing that, Mini has come out with their minified, if that's a word, SUV. So with that being said, the lack of practicality and the lack of sportiness that a lot of Mini Coopers are known for makes it a hard sell for me. It makes it hard for me to recommend that you should go out and buy it over tons of other offerings that are out on the market right now. With the trim and the front wheel drive model I tested, it does start at about $33,000 MSRP. And of course, all your dealer fees and destination fees, and if you get it new, you're going to be spending more than that. So while that is a competitive number, I will say it isn't too expensive, especially with the BMW moniker that's above it and the nice luxury touches that were in the car. It is hard to recommend it over a RAV4. It really is. RAV4 has now surpassed the Camry as Toyota's top-selling trim and model, and for a good reason. And this, you have to be a very specific person that's already in the Mini ecosystem and loves your Mini and knows how to fix it and work on it and take care of it, then this is for you. Before the average consumer and someone who's looking to buy an SUV this year, it is really hard for me to recommend this for everyone. And with that, I hope this helps you kind of get a nice overview and a average Joe's perspective on this Mini Countryman. Let me know down in the comments if you guys have test driven or own a Mini Countryman, especially a 2024 one, but any model since they have been released. And let me know how it is to live with it, how reliable it is, and just your general thoughts on it. Don't forget to hit that like button. It really does help me out and it allows me to make more content like this. And hit the subscribe button if you want more content like this. I strive to try to have a very unbiased and really not a car enthusiast or someone who cares about all the nitty gritty, because to be honest, most people don't. It's really about how it feels, how practical, how sporty, and how it is to live with a car like this. So, with that being said, stay safe on the road.